Hello and welcome to week 3 of Reliving the Dying of George Floyd. When I think of how hard it has been for viewers watching the killing of George Floyd over and over again, I feel to the depths of my core for his family. I know that as much as this country needs the closure that a conviction of Chauvin will bring, this family needs it more. The closure the family, as well as the nation, will receive from a conviction is not the closing of the story. It is a new chapter, one of hope, one that tells us that justice for Black people matters, that people will be held accountable, that police will be held accountable, that change is possible. We know that nothing will bring back Mr. Floyd or the countless others who have lost their lives to the thinking and thoughtless acts of violence against Black and brown men, women, and children in this country for countless years. But we can honor their lives by making sure that the George Floyd Police Reform Bill is passed. We must take a front seat when it comes to the elected officials who hold offices of power, and we must hold them accountable. This week, we are not only faced with this important verdict that will come, but the verdict on this nation. You see, in states all across America, white supremacists are running for and being elected into office. We saw the most blatant evidence of this on January 6th, 2021, when after the horror of the siege of the Capitol ended, certain senators continued to vote against the confirmation of the vote. And they have continued to deny that there was a fair and clear election, or to admit that Joseph Biden is our president. The Josh Hawleys, Marjorie Taylor Greens, and the Ted Cruzes are the tip of only what is visible of this iceberg. There are new and emboldened candidates who espouse these QAnon and white supremacist views. They're being groomed to run for governmental offices. It seems we cannot wake from one nightmare before the next begins. We have had 6 mass shootings this year. Wait, make that 7. One occurred today. And it's only April. Now, this does not count the daily shootings that occur in cities and rural areas across this nation. How does this relate to my topic this evening? These mass shootings are directly related to the same white fear that led to the death of George Floyd on Memorial Day last May, and the more recent deaths of 21-year-old Dante Wright 1 week ago, and in the last month of 13-year-old Adam Toledo. After this is all over, and when I say this, I mean the Derek Chauvin trial, we need to have a wall erected with the names of all the Black men, women, and children who have been senselessly murdered by those sworn to serve and protect. Their names should be etched in stone and placed at the Capitol. to honor those lives that were torn from this earth without one thought of their value by the officers who pulled the trigger, or indeed even used their own bodies to cause the lives to leave the bodies of these. Their names should be a reminder of how this country has let down the descendants of the very people who built it. This week will not close the chapter of George Floyd, should a guilty verdict be rendered. It will begin a new chapter. Now, the alternative, which I have not mentioned, is that there is an acquittal. We know that although the evidence is clear and that it should be an open and shut case, it only takes one jury member whose mind was already made up to create a hung jury or to sway the vote of others. I have to say this, that there is no way any one of those jury members who may have first sat down knowing what we all do, that any one of them could be convinced of Chauvin's innocence. A verdict of acquittal makes those jury members as guilty as the police officers who stood by and allowed George Floyd to die beneath the weight of Chauvin's body. The agony and grief and the results thereof will also be blood on that jury's hands. If the verdict is one of guilt, as it should be, we also should take to the streets in joy and victory. Whatever the verdict is in this case, we know that we still await the verdicts in the deaths of Daunte Wright and Adam Toledo. One day, I hope there will no longer be a question of whether justice is for all. One day, I hope that we do not have to rely upon the graphic imagery of murders before our very eyes to say this was wrong. Their lives mattered. You see, for those who have a problem with Black Lives Matter, think about it. Matter. It is in the perfect present tense. We no longer want to cry and wail in grief that the lives lost mattered. Past tense. We want you to know and value their lives now in the perfect presence.